Hello again, TTRPGers and those who love Fabula Ultima. We have another great video today because we're going to continue on my monsters manifestation. And that's going off a continuation from the last two videos where I made a soldier rank monster and then made another soldier rank monster and built it into an elite rank. And we're going to continue on with that today. And it goes back to a post that I just put out and was voted on pretty quickly. And I just simply wanted to ask, if I was going to build the next rank, am I going to use a new monster to be voted on? Or should we continue to let horticulture grow into something larger? And I'm going to be honest, it was neck and neck to a point where I thought horticulture was completely written off. Then they started to make a push back in front and then slowly lose some ground back to the other monster option. But when it was all said and done, they squeezed by just barely. So we're going to continue on with horticulture today. But as I stated in another post, for those who voted on the opposite side, I feel it's unfair for you to give me your time and give me your votes and then just come up short. So after this video, I'm going to build the next and final monster, and I'm going to go ahead and do another vote that's not going to include horticulture. So that being said, in this session of How to Fabula Ultima, we're going to build a champion rank horticultured. Now, before I get started, I just want to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you to everyone who continues to come back to my channel, that have expressed their experiences of Fabula Ultima, that have gone out of their way in my comments and told me that any of the videos I've posted have helped them understand the game more, or maybe they saw something in the core rulebook they hadn't quite tried yet, and watching me do it really made it seem easier and they were encouraged to try it. That's what my channel's about. And I love seeing the comments. I love seeing the response to my posts and my polls and you guys being part of that community. And of course, liking my videos, subscribing to my channel. Those are big analytics to help me grow. But when it comes down to me putting the effort to do these videos and hearing your feedback, positive, even with some criticism, I'm not here to be immune to criticism by any means. Fabula Ultima is a very interpretive game when it comes to certain things, and I'm glad that there's a lot of people, when they share their experiences, they seem to be in the same vein, whether they're not completely relative, they're not combative to what I'm trying to put out, because I want to put out correct, articulate, and informative videos for everyone. And speaking of community and polls, I just want to give a quick reminder out there that I have a new section coming to my channel soon called the Fabula Vault, where I'll be playing classic JRPGs that have been foundational inspirations to the success of Fabula Ultima that I have never played. And in a recent poll, I asked what should be my first game. And amongst a few juggernauts of notoriety, there was one obvious victor. And that victor was Chrono Trigger. Doesn't shock me, doesn't surprise me, but I was a little surprised to see some of the other powerhouses not compete to that level, but ultimately I expected it to be Chrono Trigger, and I'm more than excited to give this a go. So this will once again be live streaming. You'll come in and you can share your experiences, as long as it's coming in coalition of me experiencing it, not spoiling or anything like that, but also wanting to share your moments that have inspired you to play Fabula Ultima. Maybe there's moments in the game while I'm live playing, you can say this would be an excellent addition into a game and inspired in these rules. That's what I aim for, and I found that this was an opportune time for me to play games I've never played and continue to grow with my community as I make this Fabula Ultima content creation. So I welcome you all, and I think it's time now we finally got to the meat and potatoes of this entire video, and we start building a champion rank monster. All right, welcome back to me creating another monster, or maybe not another monster, maybe a continuation of a monster based off my past video of Horty Cultured. In this video, we're going to continue to use Fultimator to continue to show its utilities and how easy you can build a monster with it, as long as you have an idea of what you're building. I think that was very well established in my last video, and in this video, I'm not going to go into the details of the soldier creation. If you want to understand where my current soldier monster horticulture is at in this video, check my last video out. I started him as a soldier, built him out into that, and then showed how to make an elite version. I'm doing the same thing today, except we already know what his foundations are as a soldier, and we're going to go straight into it being built into a champion. So without a further ado, we're going to hop into edit here on Fultimator into its backlog and stat block. And for those new to this, if for some reason you're watching this still beyond my recommendation, the soldiers, I just want you to understand that horticulture is a weird mixture of well, it is a plant monster, but its background was basically, it was created from a deranged chanter slash bard florist that needed an opening act. And when it created horticulture, it tried to teach it art and culture and the stage and theater and all of those things. And with its successes, it started to manifest its own sentience of jealousy and its own ideology of what should be charming, what should be etiquette, and ultimately consumed its master and became its own being. And the whole point of it mechanically is to be a very manipulative creature that has some surprising bite attacks, that has this ability to do mass conditional afflictions on people with their, I believe that was called the Sophisticated Presence was the spell here. Yeah, there it is. And basically it just, for 20 mind points, it would... any creature I target with them can either be dazed, shaken, slow, or weak. And my whole point is to get one of those, dazed or shaken, on as many of the allies, my PCs, as possible. Then in doing so, I'm going to try to rely on my Vivacious Vines, which is a Dex Willpower style attack. It has range capability, so it can hit both flight, it can hit both melee. And if a target is dazed or shaken, as trying to build up from the Sophisticated Presence, when they're attacked and successfully hit, not only does it do damage, but my NPC, Horticulture, creates that target's controls that target's next action, which is very unexpected for a first-time monster for people that do not expect their turn to be lost, and also most likely used against them or their party. And that's the whole point of this monster. Now, we're going to make them even more obnoxious. We're going to make them even more impactful by introducing them as a champion. And we're going to go through the breakdown on the champions real quick. All right, going to just jump over to my core rulebook PDF here, and we're going to pop up, and we're going to talk about creating a champion. So I'm going to go ahead and just start off before we go into the details on this. And I'm just going to say, for the preface of it and the understanding of going forward to this list, we're going to make Horticultured a champion rank 4. Just keep that in mind. So just keep that variable 4 into play. So in creating a champion creatures can replace any number of soldiers of the same level. Then it says, if you want to turn a soldier into a champion, do the following. So like I said, where it says champion creatures can replace any number of soldiers of the same level, we're basically conceptualizing 4 soldiers of horticulture stats. So basically, you're using his stat block as the foundational soldier, and it's going to then be 4 ranks of it. So what you do then is, when it comes to calculating hit points, you multiply the creature's maximum hit points by the number of soldiers they're replacing. Like I said, it's going to be 4 soldier ranks of horticulture. So if we look at the foundation of their hit points, it is 70 here in Fultimator. Since it's going to be a rank 4, 70 times 4 is 280. Its hit points massively increase to mimic that variable of 4. Then we go back and we see that the next thing we do is consider mind points. And all you do with that, you don't have to worry about the ranking number or anything like that, is you just double the creature's maximum mind points. That's all you got to do. So looking back at the horticulture, we see that it is a 70. It's just going to double into 140. So we have 280 hit points and then 140 mind points. Then as we bring back up the PDF, we will talk about skills. And it states here, skills. The creature gains a number of NPC skills of your choice equal to the number of soldiers replaced by this champion. So once again, he's a rank 4. So we're going to add 4 new skills to its already existing soldier stat block. And that's going to make him a lot more problematic, have a lot more creativity in its packs and punches. And I can't wait to see what we do with them. Then we look at turns. It says during a conflict scene or conflict scenes, a champion performs a number of turns per round equal to the number of soldiers they're replacing. Once again, rank 4, that means it gets 4 turns per round, which it depends on how you want to make this. If you want to put it 4, like let's say you're putting it against 4 level 10-ish characters, this is going to be a rough fight, but ultimately it's kind of still equalized 4 level 10 soldiers against 4 level 10-ish round player characters, but it's going to do a lot more and have a lot more effect than just 4 standard Horty Cultures. But that being said, on the final bit here, it says initiative. The creature increases their initiative score by 1 point for every soldier they're replacing. Once again, it'll increase by 4 on the initiative. Now, it's worth referencing on here before we go any further. Remember that while elites and champions can perform more than 1 turn per round, they must still do while alternating with player characters in the combat. And we haven't gone over combat yet because I wanted you to understand the basis and the growth of monsters that the player characters would be fighting. But it says that is they will not perform back-to-back turns if at least 1 player character is yet to act during a final round. Finally, keep in mind in facing a lone champion is an uphill battle. Multi-target effects offer no advantage, and the foe will not lose any turns even after their hit points are diminished. So it's a lot to pack and understand when you're making this monster, and it's going to be much more impactful if you make him a sole champion, because it's pretty rough. That being said, we're going to go back into Fultimator here. And as I've discussed kind of the foundational step-by-step buildup, this is why Fultimator is great. Instead of taking the time of having to figure out all your calculations and all that stuff, all you have to do is go on to Fultimator here, and you can see where my already skill available, or my total available skills, and 4 are used because of this being a soldier. We're going to drop down to the rank section, and this is where you'll see there's soldier, elite, champion, champion 1, champion 2, champion 3, champion 4. Like I said, we're going to do champion rank 4. So it's going to basically represent 4 soldiers of Horty Culture. And when I do that, you'll notice stat block wise, already as we calculated earlier, it now has 280 hit points. It's 140 at the crisis and 140 mind points. You'll also notice up here, I now have a total available of 8 skills, like we talked about, because it's 4 ranks, it's going to get 4 more skills. Its initiative went from 6 to 10 because of the rank 4, and you're seeing pretty quickly this is how nasty this monster can get. And now that I have 4 skills to work with, there's going to be a few changes and edits and additions that I really want to construct and make happen with this character. But I think it's only fair, since they have manifested from this small top hat planter and have consumed many gullible guests and maybe some of his own creative opening acts that he's been able to charm and manipulate. He's grown beyond his planter, and he means business. So I'm going to update my new sprite that I made using Sprite. Once again, they do not endorse me. I just love enjoying that program and making these type of things. But I'm going to go down to the, I'm going to remove the image, and I'm going to choose a new image file. You bear with me one moment, and bear with me. I'm hardly an artist, but I did enjoy creating this in Sprite. We're using that, and this is going to be now the version of it. And you'll notice a couple of things I did in its image here. It's a little hard to tell. Let me see if I can. Okay, there we go. Hi. Well, you can only see part of it. Well, crud. Well, the most important thing is, let me just right over here, you'll notice it has another growing appendage head here with a monocle. This holds no mechanical value whatsoever at this point. This is simply just something I thought would be great for the flavor and of Horty Cultured. I also added a rose to it, and for reasons you'll see here in a minute. But this is where we're going to start having some fun on changing him up and making him more vicious. All right, now's the time we start applying the skills to hopefully make my monster more obnoxious, charismatic, manipulative, and dangerous. And we're going to get started here because based off of my last video where I converted Horticulture as a soldier to a rank, I got one additional skill point beyond the 4. And I'm going to reinvest my first skill point in the ability Improved Attack, which I've shown on the past videos, basically increases damage on a specified NPC attack. I am going down to the basic attacks and going to Love Bite, and I'm going to hit extra damage in Fultimator. What this is already going to do is basically it's going to expend a skill point. You'll see up here at where its net went from 4 to 5, and it's going to convert extra damage to my stat block of Love Bite. You can see where it says H high roll +10 versus the high roll +5 on the Vivacious Vines. This is because the improved damage was applied to it. So one skill point was used for that. It's also worth noting on my last video, I made a mistake early on and hit Improved Attack and then gave another +5 on it. I did catch it in the edit and made some sort of disclaimer, but just keep in mind, all you have to do is hit extra damage to apply the +5 right here. You do not have to hit extra damage and then give it a variable. That's for additional stuff if you want to add on to it for whatever reason. That being said, that's my first of 4. I have 3 deaths to spend. I'm going to do some new applications here where I am going to add +3 to bonus to all magic checks. Now, the only spell that I actually have right now is Sophisticated Presence, which if in the last video, understand that it is not an offensive spell, so it does not need attributes to cast. It was a high mind point expenditure to guarantee me choosing any number of creatures that I can see to suffer from either Dazed, Shaken, Slow, or Weak. I'm most always going to take Shaken or Dazed to apply it to set up my Vivacious Vines to then hit them and control one of their actions if they're successful. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more manipulative charm through spells and just the presence of Horticultured. And I'm going to take once again the skill, bring up the PDF here real quick. The skill known as, skipped it, oh, it's down here, called Spellcaster. Now, I already did this once to get Sophisticated Presence, or also known as Area Status, and then the 10 mind points that came with it on the first option. I'm going to take this again, and it doesn't specify there is any limitation to doing this. In fact, if you're going to make a caster-based monster, you're going to want multiple spells, so it would only make sense there's more to provide. Also, this is a great inspiration if you have a Chimerist in your group. They can use Spell Mimic to steal these spells or, be able to use them in their spell book later. So it's always fun also creating new things that inspires them to keep in their log. But in this, you got to be careful because it can start making things really dangerous for your Chimerist because they become such a utility-based monster, or excuse me, player character. But I'm not about that today. I'm more about just making Horticulture nasty. So once again, like I said, I'm going to take the second version this time of you learn 2 spells. Now, it's also worth noting, it says NPCs may learn spells from classes or from the list of NP spells on the next page. You may also create custom spells for your NPCs. Offensive spells cast by NPCs may use Might plus Willpower or Insight plus Willpower for the magic check. Now, remember, I just gave myself a +3 to the magic checks, and guess what the 2 primary stats for Horticulture is? You guessed it, it's Might and Willpower. So my magic checks, if needed for an offensive spell, are going to be pretty, in most cases, I wouldn't say guaranteed, but they're going to have a likelihood of impact. So that being said, we are going to look at the 2 spells. Well, the first one I'm going to take is called, we're going to go into the NPC spells as the first reference. I am looking for Rage. It says 10 times target up to 3 creatures, instantaneous. Each target hit by the spell suffers enrage. That's simple as that. But that's not what we're going to call it. I'm going to go to Fultimator, down to my spells, and drop my PDF here. So I only have some Sophisticated Presence. Now remember, like I said in the last video, if you're doing the spellcaster skill, when you add a spell, it's only 0.5 of your skill point expenditure. So what that also allows, if you're going to take the first option to get 10 more mind points, that's the other 0.5 that creates 1 full skill point. Or you can take the second spell as the second option, and that will also be another 0.5 to make a full skill point. So just keep that in mind when using Fultimator in its applications. But I am going to create a new spell. Actually, this one's easy because it's in the database for monsters. I'm going to hit search. And I'm just going to go down to Rage. You don't see it on my screen, but I'm clicking it. I'm going to add the item. I'm going to let it do all its mechanical additions. But there's a couple of things to remember. I am going to make it might versus willpower instead of might and willpower instead of insight versus willpower. It doesn't have a physical or doesn't have any damage. We're going to switch to no damage, but it still needs that attribute for the magic check. Now, what I'm actually going to call this instead of Rage is Bouquet Rage. And the reason why is Horty Cultured finds magical growth within its vines, extending to target creatures and manifesting bouquets of roses. Oh, I did not spell bouquet correctly. Of roses, which have a magical pheromone. I don't remember how to spell pheromone. And I hate that I'm going to pause right quick to get that spell here real quick, or that spelling. All right, I'm back in here. I was close. I did not spell it. Pheromone. There we go. Which have a magical pheromone that enrages the targets as they see they are not the only one given roses by Horty Cultured. Almost turns him into an obsessive fan. And I like the thought of that. If it isn't, I realize Horticulture is very goofy, and when you take a champion, you want to think like there's this mechanical monster of an unstoppable force. I didn't really want to go that route. If you think about the silliness of the monster in Final Fantasy VI, if you haven't played it, spoilers, but there's an octopus that talks named Ultros. He's ridiculous. He's one of the most iconic characters in the game, and he continues to show up with these quips and ridiculous statements, and also packs a punch throughout a good chunk of the game. So that's kind of the flow I'm going here with Horticultured. But that being said, that is my first spell, Bouquet Rage, and we've got that in the entirety of the spell book. Now I'm going to do one more spell. And this time, though, instead of searching it, I'm going to actually go into the core rulebook here. Because remember, in the NPC skills, it says on Spellcaster, you can go into classes. Well, I'm going to go into the Entropist, which is everyone's favorite asshole caster class. It's actually mechanically my favorite class. And narratively, I love the ideology of them. And the fact that they are, as it says here, I'm going to bring up the PDF, they are astromancers, chaos mage, gamblers, whatever you want to call it. They sow chaos and have some really ridiculous utility spells. But we're going to go for one spell in particular down here. It is called Stop. And as it states here, read it here. You trap a foe inside a circle of altered time and space. The target will perform one fewer actions on their next turn to a minimum of 0 actions. Now, remember, in the past with Horty Cultured, I have the sophisticated presence. I'm going to hit him with the vivacious vines and try to be successful in attacking them. And if I am, and they are either shaken or dazed, I get to control that MP's next action. But I want to change some stuff up. I'm all about giving them more afflictions with the enrage and all that. But I also want to be a little more annoying by just not allowing them to have an action sometimes that's not in my control. So I'm actually taking that spell called Stop. I'm going to actually take the description of this real quick, and we're going to reference this as far as the casting on it. It's 10 mind points, it's one creature, and it's instantaneous. So we're going to go back to Fultimator here and drop the PDF. I am going to add a spell. I am going to paste its description real quick, just so we have it in here. I'm going to scroll down so you can see it real quick. So the spell name is not going to be called Stop. It's actually going to be called Stage Fright. It will be an offensive spell, so I'm going to click that. The mind point target is 10, and the max targets is 1. It says target description. We'll click down. Well, it says one creature, whatever. That's either way. I think application doesn't matter on here. I could be wrong. And the duration is instantaneous. I am once again going to make it white and willpower to cast the spell, because that's what creatures use. Now, it's also worth mentioning, like I said, if you have a Chimeras, they will learn these spells. Be very careful on giving a monster basically Stop and then allowing your Chimeras to learn it. That's ultimately what makes it awesome. But if you already have an Entropist you're dealing with in stage, and then you give the Chimeras the ability to also cast Stop, it's gonna be not fun with your monster sometimes. So you gotta understand, either be careful what you design, or understand you're going to have to deal with the repercussions of what you create. And that's part of the fun, but also being self-aware as a GM. But on top of here, the type is no damage on here. Sorry, my screen's blocking the drop down. But and then instead of putting the description, you trap a foe inside a circle of altered time and space, it's going to say the grand presence of Horty Cultured among his newly found opening acts are greatly intimidating. Fear of failing their new audience, they are imbued with stage fright. And then after that, it has the mechanical value. The target will perform one fewer action on their next turn to a minimum of 0 actions. So that is it on that, and we have that now saved. Now, if you notice here, since I've added both spells, it says used on my expenditure of my skill. And then we're going to do with one more skill, and that is going to be pretty simple. You want to understand when you're making champions, it says battle a lot of times should take no more than 3 to 4 rounds, and that's general battles against soldiers and maybe some elites and stuff like that. This one's more of an ideology of a boss, and so I'm making it more of an annoyancy and hard to kill because of its hit point pool, but also because it can control actions and negate actions and do all that. I don't want to give it any more annoyances that'll make it not fun or hard to kill. So I'm not trying to increase their defense. I'm not trying to give them any more resistances. I'm not trying to give them regenerations or anything like that. I'm just trying to make them more impactful on their attacks and being able to manipulate turns. Because keep in mind, I can also use my influences with the Vivacious Vines if they are indeed still dazed or shaken. I can make one, like their weapon master, attack one of the others. I got a lot of control on this, so I'm already where it's going to be deadly, so I don't want to make it super difficult to also keep from killing. That being said, the final skill point I'm going to take is bring back the PDF. Jump out of the spell casting after we've done that damage. And I'm going to just keep it simple. Let's put that here real quick. I'm going to just do another special attack on for the Love Bite. And I'm simply just going to do the attack deals more damage suffering from status effects. I'm not doing anything complex on that. I'm going to just copy and go into multi, or excuse me, I said multi because I was reading multi. I'm going to go back up to Love Bite here. And remember, this is still a basic attack technically because I haven't put a special ability. I just gave it extra improved damage. So when I paste this in, it's now used my final skill point expenditure. So I'm going to put here, since I don't want this to be a guaranteed damage, I'm going to put in bold 5 extra damage. Most of the time when you do damage increases, you want to do it probably about 5. There might be some skills that indicate 10, or as you get higher in level, you may want to consider it based on the minor, medium, heavy damage charts. I'm not trying to make this monster ridiculous in its aggressive attacks either. So I'm just going to put this in bold so I see it to remind myself that it is going to do 5 extra damage if it's attacking something that's suffering from stat effects. With the area effect spell that is called Sophisticated Presence, with the Boutique Rage, putting in Rage, there's a lot of conditions that can be put forth on these, and it's going to make that extra 5 damage pretty guaranteed in a lot of turns. That's also not counting if I use a manipulation of Vivacious Vines to have one of my player characters cast something as well. So returning back to our breakdown on the PDF list real quick on creating a champion. We'll look at bosses here in a second, but there we go. Creating champion. So we've done the hit points. That's based from me hitting rank 4. We've gotten the mind points from me hitting the rank 4. The 4 skills were given me because it was a rank 4 champion. Now there's nothing more to calculate. You just know that if I'm fighting with Horty Culture, it gets 4 turns per round. That means I can do my Sophisticated Presence off the bat, then they get a turn, then I can do Vivacious Vines and maybe try to attack someone else and steal their action to do something if I want to. I could do the Bouquet Rage to give some rage and start really building up a lot of status effects that are going to build affinity problems for, or sorry, not affinity, affliction problems for their characters. There's a lot I can do in just those exchange of rounds. I'm not trying to make it where it's hard to hit me outside of manipulating their actions. So no defense, no regenerative abilities, no resistances, no extra immunities other than what I have as a plant. I don't want to do anything worse. I could take a vulnerability if I wanted to, again, on top of that to gain myself another skill point, but I'm happy with what I'm creating in this. And there's one other thing I want to go over in when it goes back to saying here about remembering that elites and champions can perform more than one turn around. And then it also says, remember, keep in mind, facing lone champions is an uphill battle. Multi-target effects offer no damage, so it kind of makes it a little not fun for characters that really build for multi-target attacks or spells or anything like that. And the foe will not lose any turns ever as their hit points are diminished. So there's a lot of things that are very beneficial to it being a sole champion. That being said, I'm going to add one extra change, or I'm actually going to make a change here that is going to be fun and also drop the severity to a certain extent with Horty Culture as its own entity, but also might make it more complex. And we're going to be discussing basically a multiple, if it was like a boss or something, it's a multiple down here, multiple parts. So we'll go with that here in a second. So we went over the full completion of basically making a lone champion that has existed in Horty Culture, making it rank 4. Like I said, you can make it rank 2, rank 1, whatever the case. I was just trying to showcase the capabilities you have with the extra skills and the adaptability that you can do with the spellcaster skill and going into classes and really wanting to flavor it however you want. And of course, I haven't ever created anything, and that's not the intent of this video. I'm trying to show how easy it is. It's not for me to go into the difficulties of doing checks and balances overall, other than the things that it's prefaced in the book. But one thing we're going to reevaluate here is two things. First, under the multiple parts here, it says this type of battle always works well. Create a boss whose main body is an elite or champion enemy and whose limbs are soldiers. You might also give them a main body ability to regenerate destroyed limbs by spending an Ultima point. We have not gone into Ultima points, and that's going to be in the next video, but it's a very hefty thing that makes monsters even more ridiculous than what we're already doing. But as an example here, it says a giant crab enemy with a central body champion 2 and 2 pincer soldiers that could be an interesting fight of a group of 3 heroes. It says another nice touch here is to have the limbs engage the heroes in different ways, with defensive limbs blocking the path of the creature's main body, or magic limbs that are more fragile but can cast defensive spells. So why am I bringing this up? We're going to actually invest here on Horticulture on Fultimator. I am actually going to make him champion 3. We're going to maintain this idea of there's like a champion 4 ideology by using the multi-part application. I'm going to make him champion 3. And so it's going to reduce a few things. It's going to reduce his hit points. His mind points still maintained, but he's not as hefty. I also lose one of my skill points, so I'm going to just keep it simple, and I'm going to remove the special attack that was 5 extra damage due to suffering from status, or extra damage from suffering from status effects here. So I'm back to 7. So we have Soldier 3 now, Horticulture. But I want to add an extra part. Well, if you remember back in my picture, I talked about this little. This time I'm gonna clear my screen here of my image, and I will probably post image in the editing here on my frame. Yep, get that and that. So you see this guy right here. Right here, this little extra appendage with a little snaggletooth and this monocle. Well, as I introduced the image in my poll, this is Mr. Monocle, M-A-W, knuckle. So what am I going to do with this guy? Well, I'm going to make him a level 10 soldier. Instead of making that extra soldier as part of the rank of the soldier 4, or excuse me, champion 4 for Horticulture, I'm going to do the multi-part experiment. I'm going to make Horticulture champion 3, as we've already done, and we're going to go back. No, I do not want to leave. I want to save down below here. Bottom. Oh, I forgot you can't see that on my image. We'll just save here to make sure that is all of our fun and hard work has been saved. I am now going to create another NPC, and we're gonna just really quick here. So I'm naming him Mr. Monocle. We'll worry about traits. Let's say I'll call him Best Opening Act. Eager to please. Studies well. And weak appendage, something like that. Like I said, I'm just going through this really quick because I kind of popped in my head while I was doing this. We are, like I said, it's going to be equal level soldier though, and it doesn't necessarily have to be because I'm just trying to keep the level application based off removing from the champion. It is a plant. It is a soldier. It's not phase. It doesn't have villains. It's not multi-part. I'm not going to worry about the image because I don't want to, in the middle of this video, cut and paste his face. But if I was truly going to use it, I would do so. So I'm going to actually make it as far as its attributes, I'm just going to make it standard. It's going to have a D6 in might. I'm going to give it a D8 in willpower. I'm going to give it a D10 in insight, and a D8 in Dex for just whatever sakes. Actually, since it's a weak appendage, I'm going to change this. I'm going to super specialize the insight. And so it's got a D8 and 2 D6s down here because I don't want him to be any more powerful than Horticulture because I already gave the trait weak appendage. That doesn't make sense. He would be stronger in defense than Horticulture, who already has a 6 in their Dex. So that being said, we're back to, and I'm just going through this once again pretty quick. If we look down here after the affinities and stuff, we have 4 available skills. Remember, because it's a plant, has 3 skills, and that it is level 10, so it gets another skill. Also, remember, it's a plant, so it's vulnerable to one of the skills. I'm still going to make it fire because it's part of horticulture. But it also gets its immunities to these conditions. And I'm just going to give it a quick attack here. Let's see what I have for now. I forgot that's weapons. I'm going to do a quick attack. There's Love Bite from Horticulture. I'm just going to call it Love Nibble. It's a basic attack. Doesn't have anything fantastic or anything like that. Its attributes will be might and willpower, which isn't the best, but it's enough to do something. Not do anything special on that. And I am going to just make this guy really obnoxious. He doesn't have any physical presence or reach or anything like that. Actually, I'm going to make that ranged Love Nibble because it's an appendage real quick. So I'm just trying to apply it by ear just off the top of my head to see how fast we can do this. So once again, I have my 4 skills. I'm going to give it a +3 to magic checks. So that's 1 skill used. I'm going to go ahead and make it... I'll worry about vulnerabilities here in a second. Don't think there's anything else I need to worry about application here. So yes, I have 3 extra things to apply. I am going to go into making basically Love Nibble a special attack. Let's go back on the PDF here real quick and look at the skills for special attacks real quick. Special attacks lower, I believe, than the spells. Nope. Special attack. I'm just going to make it where the target suffers a status effect, just in case I'm not successful with something else or whatever. If they remove one of the skills from the sophisticated presence or whatever, I am just going to make it where if it's successful in attack, it suffers a status effect, and I'm going to put dazed. So we'll know about that. That's one of my skill points. Then I'm going to go with Spellcaster again. And this is where I feel like I'm going to try a few things here with the skills of the spells. So first things first, we're going to go to... one moment. PDF up. Go to the PDF. We're going to... I'm just checking to see if there's anything that I can do with like Orator or... Well, Orator isn't spells, but like a Spiritist or an Elementalist or whatever the case here. Sorry, folks. I'm scanning here real quick. Okay, Spiritist, Priest, Witch. So I'm gonna just make him an Anoincy, where he has the spell Cleanse, where it says 5 mind points per target, up to 3 creatures. You strengthen and purify the soul energy coursing through your companions. Each target recovers from all status effects. So I'm going to make that an obnoxious thing if they're trying to high focus either Horty Cultured or itself. I'm going to take that. Fultimator. Going to add spells. I'm going to drop the PDF here. To my spells. I'm remember pasting this in here. I'm actually going to call this Chloroplast, even though, and I'm going to change some conditions on it. It's 5 up to, I forgot how many target it is, up to 3. So max targets up to 3 creatures. The duration is instantaneous. And instead of it says you're strengthen and purify the soul energy, I'm going to say Mr. Monocle realizes its growth and charm manifests from Horty Cultured's presence. It imbues itself, I'll say, allowing a redistribution of redistribution of cleansing transitions within itself and Horty Cultured. It does say each target recovers from all status effects. Nope, I just realized my PD's up, so my apologies. It's not going to ever probably target more than those 2, so it's never going to bypass the 3, but I can make it where it's going to do to itself and to Horty Cultured. Then I am going to look for another spell real quick. Back on the PDF. I'm going to take the spell Lux, and this is why. It says you focus your inner energy into a barraging, blinding soul of rays. You deal HR high roll of plus 15 light damage to each target hit by the spell. Opportunity, each target hits by the spell suffers dazed. So I'm going to take this, put it into Mr. Monocle with another spell. Do my paste. Then I'm going to call it Mr. Monocle's Monocle. Goodness gracious. Spotlight. It is going to be a target. It's up to... Oh. I'm sorry. I need to keep forgetting to drop the PDF here. It's 10 times target up to 3. 10 per target up to 3. Target description is up to 3 creatures. Duration's instantaneous. It's light damage. And it's going to actually use the, instead of might willpower, it's going to use insight willpower. So it's going to have a pretty high chance of hitting. Then I'm going to put here Mr. Monocle hyper focuses his monocle on the new opening act, dousing, or not dousing, directing intense spotlight. You deal HR high roll plus 15 light damage to each target hit spell, and if you get an opportunity, which means you crit, you roll double sixes or higher. Each target hit by spell suffers daze. That is a circumstantial thing, but if it hits, that's really nasty because it's going. If anyone's been having the daze removed, it's going to apply dazed again on those targets and continue to allow Horty Cultured to use his vivacious vines to try to manipulate their actions. Then, so I have 3 used. I'm going to go with one more thing, and just to really just tidy this up, I'm going to use extra MP, extra MP for 10, and I'm going to do that one more time. And simple as that. Now I have it where in this fight, save him real quick. And like I said, I didn't do anything too fantastic with anything in particular, but that Mr. Monocle's Monocle Spotlight is pretty nasty now that he has Insight plus Willpower with a +4 to hit. So keep in mind, damage is manifested by the high roll of these two. Well, my Insight, keep in mind from my specialized roll, is a D12, and my Willpower is not anything to shake at with an 8. So it's, while it's not guaranteed, it's still a pretty high chance of hit, and getting that D12 up there allows higher damage that would be able to be distributed against the party. It doesn't, and what it does also, though, is we'll go back here. I'm going to save this. We'll go back to the, like I said, I don't have a photo, but I can expand their stat blocks. It now takes just Horticulture being this, not one-dimensional, but one focus, kind of just burn and break type of monster, and then giving Mr. Monocle gives a little more character. It blends in with Horticulture's insanity of being this monster about stage and culture and etiquette, but it gives them a little bit of support and more focus for the players to have instead of just always focusing on Horticulture. Makes a really annoying fight, but I would like to think in the fun ways. That's what I aim to design. I don't aim to make it anything more than that. But that being said, I'm looking here at, see, notice his hit points, because it's not high, it's only 50. So that's where we would go into concern. He wouldn't last that long, but he might do a few things and pack a punch. But most of the time, the players are not going to see them as the first threat. They're going to try to maintain what Horticulture is doing. And that's that, man. I did a lot of talking today, but I really wanted to impact on how fun making ranked champions are. These really should be reserved for boss fights in a lot of situations, or mini bosses, would you will, because in the next video, that's what we're going to be going into, is the big boys, the bosses themselves, the villains. And we're going to talk a little bit more of that on the outro. So it wasn't until I finished the recording, I realized for probably the last few minutes, I was not on screen. I was looking and making eye contact and talking, and then realized you've just been hearing my voice, which is fine because it actually gave a broader landscape for you to see what I was doing in most cases. So I do apologize. I was in the zone in the mindset of trying to quickly make this monster on the fly. Since I put so much time making Horticultured very planned and all that, I just wanted to show quickly, if you have a moment of inspiration, what you can try to do. Is Mr. Monocle, in a mechanical sense, do a lot for this fight? I don't know. I would probably take a little bit more time and evaluate it and see if I could do a few more things, but I think it's still a fun addition to what the entire ambiance and style of what the monster was. But that being said, Horticulture as a champion is a foe to not be overlooked. And adding Mr. Monocle will give him just a few extra little impacts and annoyances, but also give him a focus, a task of the players to feel like they're doing more than just trying to burn down the big boss on its own. But I use the keyword big boss. And as I said in the preface of the ending part of my video, they are not the boss. What I showed you in this would be more of a mini boss in most cases, even though they would probably do a lot of things. But there is something beyond the ranks. There's something beyond the entirety of what makes a monster or an NPC impactful, beyond the standard mechanical stat block. And that is going to be our next video. That is going to be what you have the options to vote on when I'll put this post out soon on the poll. We are going to discuss villains, and we're going to build one, and you're going to help me choose on what the species is going to be. I cannot wait until that video, and I look forward to see what we manifest to help ending worlds. See you next time on How to Fabula Ultima.